Hello and welcome to Module 8. We're wrapping up Chapter 3 here. We're going to be talking about ecosystem resistance versus ecosystem resilience, the watershed studies, one in particular that's really interesting, and the intermediate disturbance hypothesis. So what's the difference between ecosystem resistance and ecosystem resilience? An ecosystem that demonstrates resistance is able to withstand a disturbance with minimal effect on its flow of energy and matter. However, an ecosystem that demonstrates resilience will have can be significantly disturbed with significant changes to its flow of energy and matter, but it's able to return to its original state relatively rapidly. In order for an ecosystem to have resilience, it has to have many generalist species and have high net primary productivity and contain fast-growing producers. Also needs to have a moderate to high species diversity. This is a really interesting study. It's called the Hubbard Brook Ecosystem Study. And what we found in this study was that plants are really important in regulating the cycle of nutrients. We learned a great deal about biogeochemical cycles, particularly that large amounts of nutrients accumulate in vegetation and soil where forests and grasslands grow. And without intact plant communities, nutrients would cycle through the system and then end up right to the ocean. So it just showed the importance of these dense forests. I'd like for you to think of this experiment in the framework of the scientific method. So consider, what is the hypothesis? What is the experimental design and collection or data collection? What were the results and what was the conclusion? Was there any way that this experiment could have been improved? All right, let's talk about intermediate levels of disturbance. So take a look at this graph, specifically 8.5a. So notice that there is low species richness on both sides of this graph, but they're low for different reasons. Species richness is low on the left side because the competitively dominant species takes over when there's a lack of disturbance and doesn't regulate the population. However, the species richness is low on the right-hand side because the high level of disturbance prevents many species from establishing a stable population. It's important that you recognize that an intermediate disturbance increases the diversity. So here's a really good sentence. As a result, we see the highest diversity of species in ecosystems that experience an intermediate frequency of disturbance. A couple examples of ecosystem disturbances would be natural disasters, floods, fires, hurricanes, etc. There's lots of others. Also biological disturbances like predation or disease. All right, that wraps up Module 8, which also wraps up Chapter 3 for us. So we talked about the movement of energy in the first module, and then the movement of matter, and finally the responses to disturbances. So what I would encourage you to look through and make sure that you can go through this whole summary, and it all looks very clear, and all of these multiple choice would be great study for your test. Thank you.